And at the other end of the ice, 25-year-old Mike Liut stands 6'2", giving up 18 goals, 4.50 on this playoff series. On the season, Liut allowed 199 goals against and winning 33 games for the Blues, losing 14 and tying 13 others. Millen on the season was 25, 27, and 10. The youngster Bullard is at center ice. Sheppard on one side, Ferguson on the other for Pittsburgh. They're in the dark uniforms. On defense, they have Pat Price teamed up along with Mario Faubert. The Blues playing it down into the Pittsburgh zone off the stick of Sutter and into the crowd. And the Blues make absolutely no change. They have Chapmän out there with Pæti and Sutter as their forward line. Red Berenson, a man who has been with the St. Louis organization a long, long time. And under his tutelage, the Blues have never lost 2 straight at home. Well, they lost the last playoff game here, Mike.
Well, as they said earlier, it was Emile Francis said if they don't win in their home building, then they don't deserve to be here. And I think probably the same way that Red Berenson feels.
That's Price around to Ferguson as he slapped it into center. Just over the goal line, Nicoletti back to get it. Icing had been waved off. Here's Sheppard for Pittsburgh. He's had a big series as far as defensive hockey is concerned. The point just gave it to Chapmän. Chapmän trying to clear it out of his own zone. It got away from Price, and Bullard, the youngster who thought his season had ended a couple of weeks ago, played it into center and now down into the St. Louis zone, wide of the net. Nicoletti touching up, then fell into the boards, but it results in an icing call. Nicoletti has had a big series. As a matter of fact, he is leading the St. Louis team as far as points are concerned, a goal and 8 assists.
There's a look at Eddie Johnstone, coach of the Pittsburgh team. Coached with Chicago last year and got them into the playoffs, and now he's done a great job this year with Pittsburgh, former goaltender for the Boston Bruins. A man that I've watched play many, many times. And look at Red Berenson, a former player for the St. Louis Blues. And it's funny that Ed Johnstone used to play goal for the Blues. He played 3.5 years here in St. Louis.
Yeah, he had a career here. Thought at one time that he might be a future coach in St. Louis, but it didn't work out that way. Curry, forechecking for St. Louis, tied up by Randy Carlyle. Now Curry got loose, tried to stuff one in, but Millen, covering up on the short side, is forced to face off, and Carlyle and Sutter go at it back of the net. Some other shoving going on at the side of the goal, but Carlyle and Sutter throwing the rights at the head of Carlyle. Still some shoving with Hart involved in front of the Pittsburgh goal. And referee Lewis is trying to direct them into a neutral area while the linesmen Scapanello and D'Amico have separated Carlyle and Brian Sutter. Sutter a pepper pot. And now Maxwell gets involved as well. A little more shoving and pushing going on.
For a big game, they're going to go right at it, aren't they?
Well, referee Lewis will have his hands full from early indications. We're only 1 minute into the hockey game. Just underway following the face-off. Pittsburgh in control of it, but the whistle sounds. Faubert and Hart had been shoving at one another in front of the St. Louis goal, and referee Lewis handing out more penalties. He's coming down hard early, taking control of this hockey game, Mike.
He has to, Jiggs. Right there, he had both of them for slashing, I believe. They were both whacking each other with the sticks in front of the net. But Lewis has to do that because if he lets the game get out of control, as we said earlier, the pressure and the tension is so great here, the players are going to go off at everything. And it's Lewis's job to keep the game in that right perspective, you know, and to keep it going that way. Watch him here. This is really what started it. Liut makes a nice save here, and watch Faubert get pushed into the net here, and Faubert is going to stay there for a little while. He really can't get out, but once he did get out, that's when they started with the slashing of the sticks. And as you said, Lewis has to keep the game under control, and he's doing a good job of it so far.
Slashing penalties called at 6:04. Pittsburgh still with the man advantage. Carlyle shot right on, and Liut able to make the save. The winner of this game plays New York. If it's St. Louis, they'll play the Rangers in the quarterfinal. If it's Pittsburgh, they'll play the New York Islanders in the quarterfinal series. Shots even now at 5 by each team. Bullard on the faceoff, number 22, and it's cleared into center, rolling down into the Pittsburgh zone. Pat Price chasing it. He and Carlisle are out together on defense. Sheppard on the left side. Got it to Bullard, who was falling. Handed it right to Klassen. Klassen back into his own zone. Ferguson checking him along with Sheppard. Blues able to clear it, but this is Carlisle to Bullard. Bullard shot it in off the boards. Klassen goes back. Sheppard into forecheck. Klassen looks for an opening. Fired it off the boards. Penguins have to play chase it. Dillon back of the goal. Played it away from the forechecking of Pæti to Pat Price. Price ahead to Paul Gardner. Gardner at center ice. Crossed that line. Was checked. Picked up by Pæti. Pæti around behind the net. Now to Kia. Kia dumps it the length of the ice. We have a minute and 20 seconds remaining in the double minor against Maxwell. Ryan Maxwell, the defenseman, due for high sticking. A good job of forechecking as Zook tucked it away from his pad, and now Lapointe has worked it back in the net. Number 25 is Carlisle. Randy Carlisle out of the reach of Baxter, picked it up into center to Gardner. He's got a break. Keogh moving in with him. Gardner a backhander off the skate of Liut. Here's Carlisle with it now. Around behind the net, Keogh tied up, dug the puck loose. Keogh looks for some help, now starts in. Keogh a shot. They score! Off the stick in front. Gardner tipping Keogh's shot, and the Penguins use the power play to take the lead.
Well, Gardner finally got his first goal of the playoffs. He had a great year this year. He scored 34 goals this year, as we said, and he was shut out in the playoffs up until this point right here. Watch Gardner get a piece of the shot. Liut doesn't have that much of a chance on it. This is exactly what Liut saw. See, he just got his piece of a stick and deflected it between Liut's legs. Nice goal.
Keogh still looking for his first goal after having scored 55 on the season. Has had 11 shots in the series coming into tonight. Carlisle gets an assist along with Keogh at 7:48. Pittsburgh in front 1-0. The puck has been frozen on the boards back of Liut. So we're going to face off in the circle to the left. Nothing further from the Spectrum in Philadelphia. Our last report, the Flyers and the Nordiques tied at 1.
Here's a look at Joe Micheletti, the leading scorer for the St.Louis Blues in the playoffs with 1 goal and 8 assists. Tied with Wayne Gretzky for most assists in the playoffs.
Now this is Micheletti, back of the net. In the center, Micheletti shoots it in wide of the goal. St. Louis trying to get it on it quickly. It was cleared by Hamilton, but didn't get it out of there. Pat Price now. Up the middle to Malone. Malone left side intended for Hamilton. Curry riding hurt on him. That's Micheletti back of the net. Micheletti over on the far side to Sutter. Into center ice. Federico now to Curry on right wing. Tony Curry checked by Price. Pat Price unable to clear it out of his own zone. Curry with a shot. Good save by Millen, who covers up. It came loose. A scramble in front, and the whistle sounds. Millen thought he had it covered long enough, but then it got away from him. Live from the Checker Dome in St. Louis, you're watching NHL playoff hockey on the USA Network. That's the rookie Bullard getting ready for this face-off against Dunlop deep in the Pittsburgh zone. Came to the boards for Wayne Babbage. Babbage dumps one around to the far corner. Ferguson chasing it for the Penguins. It's Bullard at center with Ferguson and Sheppard on the wings. This is Hart back for the Blues to Babbage. Into center, but out of the reach of Dunlop. Carlisle plays it to the right wing for Ferguson. He's over the line. Cutting to the left side. Ferguson's pass intercepted by Babbage. Babbage had it stolen. Here's Sheppard with it. Couldn't get it to Bullard. Sheppard once more. In around Babbage. Greg Sheppard at the side of the net. Chopping at it. It went wide. Faubert given a bump by Pettersson as they tied up on the boards. Still no whistle. Faubert kicks one back of the net. Maxwell for St. Louis. Ryan Maxwell coughed it up in his own zone. Here's Sheppard moving in. Shoots. Hit the side of the goal. Dunlop taken out by Ferguson, and Hart recovers the puck.
Pittsburgh doing a good job of forechecking.
They have that 1-0 lead, but the Blues have dumped the puck to center, down into the Pittsburgh zone, and that was Sheppard who was back. Greg Sheppard forces the Blues back into their own territory. Penguins in a player change. Maxwell from back of the goal. Maxwell fires one around the boards in the Pittsburgh zone. Millen out of the net. Very active goaltender. It didn't come outside the line. Cleared right back in by Maxwell. Now Paul Bacster feeding Lonsberry at center ice. Ross Lonsberry admits he has not had a good playoff series, but got it into the St. Louis zone. Here's Mark Johnson out for the first time. Johnson tied up, chased to the corner by Kia. Lonsberry for Pittsburgh. Ross Lonsberry forces a face-off in the circle to the right of Mike Liut. Lonsberry, a veteran of the wars, started his career with Boston, went to Los Angeles, then to Philadelphia, and on to Pittsburgh.
He's the kind of hockey player you got to have around when those playoffs roll around. He's been involved in playoffs. He's been involved in Stanley Cups. That experience, it helps so much in these pressure situations. He's the kind of guy that keeps everybody loose, keeps everybody relaxed.
Can you imagine 97 playoff games? That's what Ross Lonsberry has played in the National Hockey League. Gets a rest now at the bench as Eddie Johnson has Hamilton up on the left side. Jim Hamilton's first game in the playoffs. Malone is at center ice. Lee is on the right wing. On the face-off, Malone tried to get it to Hamilton. It was broken up by Kurri of the Blues. Kurri with Sutter to his left. Kurri shot it in wide. Millen out of the net. Knocked it away from Kurri. Off the glass. It bounces and right to Sutter. Ryan Sutter being tied up by Baxter, and we'll get a face-off to the right of Greg Millen. Down to 9 minutes, 19 seconds left in the first period. Power play goal by Gardner has Pittsburgh in front. Here you can see they've been through the wars.
Yes.
Just looking at Ed Kia.
Kia get the knock right on his nose there. He's from Holland. Bayer played in it, I believe it was Calgary, before he came here to join St. Louis.
Atlanta, yes.
Atlanta, prior Atlanta, now Calgary.
Backhand shot off the chest of Millen, and he slides off to the side, cradling the puck, forcing another face-off. Ed Kia, just a little trivia note, the shortest name in the National Hockey League. Of course, Ed Meal tries to tie him when he plays for Edmonton, but Kia, out of West Holland.
One of 14 children, the youngest of 14 children. Boy, it must have been tough to get something to eat. Get out and skate then. 14 kids in the family, you got to fit your ice time between your meals.
No, he didn't start to play this game until he was 14 years of age.
He's a great athlete.
Now earns his living that way. Again, forcing a face-off in the circle to the left of the net. This telecast is presented by authority of the National Hockey League and is intended solely for the private, non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the National Hockey League is prohibited. This is Jakes McDonald with Mike Eruzione, along with Rod Glazier at the Checker Dome in St. Louis. Penguins lead the Blues 1-0 as Lee comes to center. Hamilton with him, 2-on-2. Across the line is Lee. Lee off the boards, intended for Price, who had followed the play. Never did arrive on his stick. Kurri managed to get it out of his own zone to Sutter. Now back to Micheletti, to Sutter once more, to Federico on right wing. Federico around the boards to Sutter. Sutter put it off to the side. It was cleared by Millen. Penguins deep in their own zone. Number 28 is Hamilton. Knocked it away from Hart into center ice. Ryan Maxwell back. Now to Hart. Hart having to go all the way back into his own zone. Turn to get away from Hamilton's check. Here's Hart up the left wing to Sutter at center. Sutter, a long shot. Millen the stick save. Sutter and Faubert collide. Sutter playing it around behind the net. Good move by Carlisle to miss the check. And here's Malone starting out for Pittsburgh. Malone to Lee. Lee, a slap shot right on. Liut the save. Comes to the corner for Federico. Federico shoots it down into the Pittsburgh zone. Ferguson back to touch up, and that'll be icing called against the St. Louis Blues. We have exactly 8 minutes remaining in the first period.
Well, so far, Jiggs, Pittsburgh's come back a little. St. Louis came out at him earlier and did a good job on him. There's a look at, is it Mike? Who's number 11 is George Ferguson, formerly with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Almost everybody on Pittsburgh is former somebody.
It's incredible. I think they only have 3 players, maybe 4 players who are draft picks still playing with the team right now. Most of them are from Toronto and Montreal and Boston. Keep going down the list of people that they have this year with this club, and most of them have been through trades. George Allen would love to work here.
The youngster at center for them right now is Their rookie draft choice from last June. That's Bullard. Millen out of the net, cleared the puck to the corner. Klassen couldn't get a stick on it. Here's Chapmän in front to Päti, too far. Mario Faubert winding up. Out of away from Klassen. That was checked by Päti. This is Klassen centering one to Chapmän. He shoots. Blocked in front by Chorney, the young defenseman. Now Ferguson is unable to clear it. On the blue line, played around the boards by Lapoinт. Came out in front. That went wide of the net. Held in by Micheletti to Klassen. Out in front, this is Päti. Can't pull the trigger. Back again to Micheletti. Takes a shot. Millen the stick save. Chapmän knocks his man down. The puck dug loose. Päti centers. Klassen shot blocked. Millen covers up and holds on. Greg Millen has been the difference they maintain through this series. And again, here in the first period, has come up big for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Well, some great saves there. No, you're saying how St. Louis.
Well, I think we've lost your microphone, Mike.
Is it gone? Okay, it's
there you
back.
go.
St. Louis sort of lulled for a little while, but now they're right back in the game and putting the pressure back on Pittsburgh. But Millen made some fine saves right there. I like the way he hops around. I think if I was one of his teammates, I'd get excited. We can get a shot of him when the music's playing. Look at him, just bouncing to the music. And he said it's not to be a showman, but it keeps him in the game and keeps him going. Look at that.
His hockey career ends. Could be the Ice Volleys or the Capades.
Well, he used to be a drummer in a band, and he had to make a decision between hockey or music. But right now he says hockey's his game and music relaxes him.
I love the way he slaps that stick to the beat of the music as well. Up and around in front of that Pittsburgh goal, and now has been forced to clear the puck off to the side after the face-off. Shot, unable to get it out. This is Federico, dumps one in off the boards. Millen cuts that off. There's Randy Carlyle with it. The shot on the left side. Shot checked by Sutter. Sutter, the Blues captain, lost it to Malone. Now Carlyle ahead on the left wing, and it's cleared out of there by Shott. Back is Maxwell. Being watched by Lee. Maxwell gave it to Jerry Hart. Again to Maxwell. Now to Hart. 6.5 minutes to play in the first period. This is Sutter at center ice. Sutter shot it into the Pittsburgh zone off the boards. Penguins unable to clear it, but Kurri's shot went wide. Now Sutter into the corner to Federico. Kurri open in front, but they couldn't get the puck to him. Federico centers it out in front off the skates of Baxter, and Millen gave it to Shott. Shott, lead pass up the right wing for Lee. 2-on-1 with Hart back. Lee fakes the shot, centered, but the pass went behind Malone, who was trailing the play. Now Malone on the left wing is tied up in the boards, and we'll get a face-off. Lee, a nice move, but he played the puck just out of the reach of the man trailing.
Here's a look at Rod Shott, number 27 there, who started another one of the Pittsburgh players from another club. He started his career in Montreal, played a couple of years down in Nova Scotia with the Voyagers, was an all-star down there in the American Hockey League. 11 power play goals this year and 5 game-winning goals for Pittsburgh, which is tops with Rick Kehoe.
Your old buddy Mark Johnson out there on the face-off for Pittsburgh, but the Blues have come to center. Babbage tied up momentarily. Fans thought he had been interfered with. Here's Chorney back. Gave it to Price, to Chorney. Chorney, well, Mark Johnson is playing with Lonsberry and Kehoe. Johnson checked at center. Hit Kia, go to the far side, and a shot down into the Pittsburgh zone. And icing is called against St. Louis. With the score, Pittsburgh 1, St. Louis no score. You're watching NHL playoff hockey on the USA Network. Ready for a face-off in the circle to the left of Liout. On the draw, the puck deflected just wide of the Blues' goal. Bullard is at center with Shepard and Ferguson up front for Pittsburgh. This is Kia playing it to Babbage, who's out there for the Blues, along with Dunlop and Pettersson. Babbage over the line, faked the shot, moves in, oh, it went off the arm of Millen. Babbage again behind the goal. Checked this time by Bullard. Ferguson couldn't clear it out. Babbage's shot that hit the defenseman in front of the net. And Kia in from the point. He's checked, and Shepard fails to clear it. Now Kia drive, and it went wide. Ferguson back for Pittsburgh. George Ferguson backhanded the puck, but not out of the Pittsburgh zone. Shepard to Ferguson on right wing. Ferguson into center, off the stick of Shepard. It bounces into the St. Louis territory. Going back for it is Kia. To Babbage. Babbage on the right wing boards, being bothered by Bullard. Babbage is tied up. Sheppard comes over, and they'll force a face-off to the right of Mike Liut. Blues are out shooting the Penguins 14-9.
Well, it's been pretty wide open and pretty physical also. There's a look at the rookie, Mike Bullard, number 22 there, who played 14 games at the beginning of the year with Pittsburgh, but they felt he wasn't quite ready yet, so they sent him back to Brantford in the OHA for a little more seasoning, and he's come back and he's got 3 goals and 3 assists in his 3 playoff games. He's had a great series.
Brantford upset by the Windsor Spitfires. Bullard thought he had played his last game. In fact, he was out partying when he got the call to get to Pittsburgh. Played the last 2 games in the regular season. Here's a break for Chapmän, but he fell at center, and the puck goes to Carlisle. Randy Carlisle into center ice. This is Shuttt on the left side. Shuttt a drive just wide of the stick side. Peter Lee works it around behind the net, but Chapmän back for the Blues. Left the puck there. In is Lee. Lee in the corner. Ducked his head trying to get around the check. Now Maxwell jabs it away from his man. Here's Lee with it. The play has been called. Shuttt had knocked Hart down in front of the St. Louis goal. And referee Brian Lewis calling yet another penalty. We have 4:16 left in this first period.
I think this is on Rod Shuttt for a cross-check.
We're looking at Bernie Federico as he gets ready for the face-off of the St. Louis power play. Shuttt for cross-checking at 15:44 is the penalty against Pittsburgh. Colbert, a long shot. Liut the save, and that's Mike Zook. Zook has had an excellent playoff thus far for the Blues. Gave it to Federico to the side of the net, down on the right side to Zook. Zook into center. Shot it wide of the goal. Federico went after it. Back of the goal to Sutter. Sutter tried to set up Curry. Now Curry going back of the net to Federico. To the blue line to Micheletti. Micheletti to Federico. Now to Micheletti again. Takes a shot when bouncing off Sheppard. Here's Zook with a drive. Tipped and just off the arm of the goaltender, Greg Millen. Micheletti held it in for the Blues to Federico. Federico chased to the boards and knocked down by Faubert. And a pileup will force a face-off in the Pittsburgh zone. 3:34 left in the first period. 1:18 remaining in the penalty against Shuttt. Philadelphia has gone ahead of Quebec 2-1 now. The indication is that that is a first period score. We'll try and keep you posted as best we can on that game at the Spectrum.
It's a shot at Mario Faubert there. Young hockey player. Played hockey here at St. Louis University, so it's a little homecoming of some sort for him every chance he gets to come back here and play.
I think he was studying law here, wasn't he? Zook from the blue line. Weak shot, but the Blues had a chance to tip it, couldn't make contact. Now Sutter got it to Federico back of the goal. To Curry. Curry looks for some help. Comes through to the face-off circle. Back of the net. Federico failed to pick it up. Carlisle trying to clear it out. Couldn't do so. Curry to Zook. Out of Micheletti. To Zook again. Zook in front to Curry on a backhand. Can't get the shot away as he was knocked down. And George Ferguson has cleared it to center. 45 seconds left of the St. Louis power play. This is Zook sending Curry over the line. Curry around the check of Ferguson, but then couldn't get away from Carlisle. Ferguson picks it up. Ferguson into center. Got away from Curry and now dumps it down into the Blues zone. Micheletti back behind the Blues net. 26 seconds left in the St. Louis power play. This is Pettersson on left wing. Pettersson elects to dump one into the corner. Babbage in after it. Babbage being tied up in the play by Pat Price. Babbage still in control of it. Finally it went to Lee, and again the Penguins have cleared the puck.
For a team that hasn't been successful killing penalties this year, they're doing a good job so far.
Now the Blues at center ice. Lapoinт dumped one in. Teams at 6 aside again. Millen out of the net. Left the puck, and it's cleared around the boards and into center by Paul Baxter. This is Lapoinט. 2 minutes, 5 seconds left in the period. The pass to Babbage was out of his reach. Cleared back into center ice by Rod Shuttt. Lapoinט. And now Brownscheitel fires the puck in. Brownscheitel, the Buffalo native, out of Notre Dame University. This is Peter Lee back for Pittsburgh. Lee rounding the goal. Backhanded it into the center ice area. Picked up by Greg Malone. Then he took a bump on the boards. Here's Dunlop back for the Blues. Dunlop poked the puck to Pettersson across the line. Backhanded it into the corner. Dunlop in after it. Dunlop with Chapmän parked in front of the goal, but they couldn't get it to him. Now Dunlop to Pettersson. Pedersen shoots, the can save by Millen. Malone trying to go back in the net. Blues had two men on top of him. Chapmän came away with the puck. Now to Dunlop. Dunlop trying to get around Malone. Centered it went right to Price. Price ahead to Lee, too far. Maxwell at center. Rink wide to this near side. And Lapointe just dumped it in over the line with 1:04 left in the opening period. Pittsburgh leading 1-0. Into center ice comes Paul Baxter and then shot it around the boards. The goaltender, Liut, failed to cut it off, however. Johnson for Pittsburgh, unable to pick it up. Carlisle knocked down from behind. Now into center ice. And checked on the play was Blair Chapman. The puck loose in the Pittsburgh zone, and Chorney was back. Chorney to Carlisle. Randy Carlisle at center. 4 Blues back in a row, and they broke up the Pittsburgh rush. Maxwell with it. Maxwell to Curry, checked by Carlisle. Came right back to the Blues players. Zook into center ice to Pæti. Across the line comes Klassen, a backhander steered aside by Millen. The puck loose into the left wing corner. Mark Johnson taken out of the boards. Lonsberry cleared it, not out. Kia's shot skipped wide of the goal. It's off to the side of the net. And cleared by the Pittsburgh defenseman, Chorney. Handed it right to Pæti. Couldn't cut in around the defensive work of Johnson. Now from the blue line, Maxwell's shot is cut off. 3 seconds left as the Penguins clear it to center. And that will do it for the opening period of play. Pittsburgh comes out of it with the lead thanks to a power play goal midway through the period. Started out with some rough stuff. The referee Lewis seemed to quell that with the penalties. Double minor against Maxwell. And then Hart and Faubert with slashing calls, but midway through the period, Gardner on a power play goal, and they're not too anxious to leave the ice. There's still a little bad blood between these two teams. It's been a physical series all the way through, and including the first period here tonight. The shots on goal in the period by the St. Louis Blues, 17, by the Pittsburgh Penguins, 10, but it's the Penguins coming out of the period with the lead as Paul Gardner got his first goal in the playoff series set up by Keogh and Carlisle. Penguins in the dark uniforms, the Blues in the white. Bullard is at center ice for Pittsburgh, taking this face-off against Pæti of the Blues. And Bullard won the draw. Price and Faubert together on defense. Ferguson and Sheppard on the wings for Pittsburgh. The puck into the center ice zone. Blues controlling it at their own line. Lapointe to Pæti. Pæti had to turn as Price was right on top of him. Now Pæti to Chapmän, and again it's broken up by Sheppard to Ferguson. Ferguson over the line. His quick shot went off Lapointe. This is Pæti. Now to Klassen. Hit solidly on a check by Price. Sheppard back into his own zone to Faubert. Lost it to Pæti, who's over the line. Off the boards. This is Klassen. Ralph Klassen centers one. Good play by Sheppard to get back in front of Chapmän. Sheppard back in the goal. Lost the puck. Chapmän to Klassen. Klassen unable to control it. Here's Sheppard now. Sheppard knocked down by Pæti. There will be a penalty against the Blues. Pittsburgh in control of the puck. Right side to Ferguson. Ferguson a drive. Liut the stick save, and now the penalty is called. And Pittsburgh will get an early power play chance to open up the second period. Questionable call, perhaps.
Yeah, I looked from here like Larry Pæti got his hip into him. I don't think he really got a trip at him, but let's get a look at it here and see what it looks like. Watch Pæti here coming into the picture. He did. He got his knee up there. He just caught him with the knee. Good call by the official.
So 57 seconds into the second period. Pæti is off. They're calling it tripping. Pittsburgh, who got the lead on a power play in the first period, has yet another opportunity. Gardner centers for Lonsberry and Kehoe. That's Faubert to Carlisle. Trying to get it right back to Faubert. And a little too much on it.
An important thing there is with Pæti in the penalty box, he is their best penalty killer. He's 8 short-handed goals this year, which is tops in the National Hockey League, so it hurts having him, of anybody, to be in that box.
They've got Key and Brown shuttled together on defense and just bounced a long one into the Pittsburgh zone. Millen came out of the net and then was called. He did not make a move to play it, held it for longer than the allotted 3 seconds, forcing a face-off in the Penguin zone.
There's a look there at Mike Zook, played at Michigan Tech. He was an All-American there, and he was the WCHA Rookie of the Year his freshman year there, and he earned WCHA honors all throughout college. Very talented hockey player. And another guy that an exceptional penalty killer.
Delayed offside in effect here. Penguins out of their own zone finally as Keogh left it. This is Carlisle over that St. Louis line to Keogh on right wing. Keogh went back to the net, centered. Here's Lonsberry with a shot, blocked at the defense, and Keogh is unable to clear it out. Brownscheitel had knocked it down, got it to Keogh. Ed Keogh backhands at the length of the ice. Lassen comes out as a penalty killer now for the Blues. 1-0, Pittsburgh leading. Second period just underway. Carlisle to Lonsberry. Back to Carlisle. That's Gardner taking the pass at center. Rink wide to Keogh. Dumped one in over the line. Faubert in, but Lapointe clears it away from him. 43 seconds left in the penalty time against St. Louis. Lee's pass. Missed connection with Gardner at center. Now Gardner dumps it in over the line. Lee on right wing. Centers one. Price was in but couldn't control it, and this is Micheletti firing it to center and down into the Penguin territory. Toни, number 24, another rookie with Pittsburgh, back for it. Mark Chorney, 15 seconds left in the power play as he comes to center. Rink wide to Lee, off the boards and cleared by Lapointe. Five seconds left in the power play as Price now to Chorney on the right side. Rink wide into the St. Louis zone, across the goal line, and Hart there to touch up just as the penalty expired, and icing has been called against Pittsburgh.
Good job right there by St. Louis. You know, it's such an emotional lift every time. You know, you make a mistake, you get a penalty, and then when those guys come out and they do such a good job of killing it, it gets everybody ready, and it gets everybody all pumped up and ready to go in that next shift. So that's a very positive sign right there for St. Louis, but they got to sort of mount some better of an offensive attack this period. They've had to kill 2 minutes of this period through a penalty, so they really haven't had much time, but they got to get going now, especially after the change in events like that.
They've got to forget about being down by one and just play shift by shift. Lee over the line for Pittsburgh. Drop pass. Price with a shot that just went wide. Now this is Sutter for the Blues. Knocked down in his own zone. Maxwell was checked by Malone, but Hart is there. Hart to Curry too far. Price from the blue line. A shot that deflected wide. In behind the net is Shot. Put it out in front, and it comes outside the St. Louis territory. Picked up at center by Price. Price over to Baxter. Ahead on the right side for Lee. The Malone is over the line. Malone to Shot. That deflected high. Comes off the glass at the side of the net. Liut couldn't trap it, but it's been cleared down into the Pittsburgh zone. The goaltender, Greg Millen, leaves it at the side of the net where Paul Baxter will pick it up. 16:09 left in period two as the Penguins come to center, led by Ferguson. Left side, shut. Hart Ferguson got a poke at it. Cleared aside by Liut. Now Federico check. Brownscheitel leads the rush. Jack Brownscheitel at center. Across the line, slowed up on a hit, then was finally knocked down, and the puck cleared around the boards by Carlisle. Shot from the left side for the Penguins. Into center ice. Shot fires it right on. Liut up on top of the goal crease. Played it off. On this left side again, it's Brownscheitel to Pettersson. Jorgen Pettersson check. Keogh in control of it. Ed Keogh dumps one in. Right back is Shepard. Shepard and Dunlop tying up one another in the boards. Keogh in from the point. The puck came loose. Rick Lapointe dumped one off in front underneath Faubert. Ended up on the stick of Shepard, and the Penguins are able to clear it. It's going to cross the goal line, and again, Pittsburgh called for icing the puck. Where Pittsburgh won, St. Louis. An update from the Spectrum in Philadelphia. The Flyers have just taken a 3-1 lead over the Nordiques. Oh, and Pittsburgh again testing Liut. Here it's 1-0 Pittsburgh. Federico sends Hart to center ice. Jerry Hart over the line, left side. This is Sutter coming in around Baxter. Shoots Millen, cut that off. Hugged the post to the right side, able to make the save, and the Penguins have cleared it down into the Pittsburgh zone. Hart back to upend Bullard in his pursuit of the puck. Now Maxwell stepped away from it. Ferguson with a shot off the glove hand of Liut. Picked up by Bullard. Bullard to the blue line. Drive from Baxter is blocked, and the puck came to center after it had hit Curry. Baxter off the boards to Ferguson. Over to Shepard. Shepard against Hart. He likes to play it in around the boards. Got away from Liut, but Curry is back. Curry Offed it up. Price at the blue line. That shot went wide of the net. Back of the goal. Bullard unable to come out in front. Ryan Maxwell for the Blues. For Curry on right wing. 3-on-3 as they come to center. Federico across the line. Missed the check. Federico, a drive off the pads of Millen. And Curry fan to the rebound. Penguins able to cover up. Pat Price shooting at the length of the ice. Maxwell touches up. We have 9:43 left in the period.
Great move there by Federico. Boy, that was nice. He got a shot off there. I don't think he got as much on it as he wanted to. And Millen made a nice save. Let's try to get a look at it here. Watch this nice move there by Federico. Geez, what a pretty move. He really didn't regain his balance fully and get himself enough time to let that shot go. Just a pretty move, though. Real nice move.
See where Millen was on the play. Up on top of that goal crease. Liut, on the other hand, Mike, I notice has been backing in. He's been tight on that crossbar most of the night.
Well, Mike's a stand-up type goalie, so most stand-up goalies do maybe have a tendency to stay back there, but Liut normally does come out a little, as you said, Jigs. But tonight he's back there, but he doesn't go down that much, so it's a little better if he's going to stay back there. He's best being a stand-up goalie than a flopper.
St. Louis out shooting Pittsburgh 6-5 in this period. On the game to this point, 23-15 favor of St. Louis, but it's Pittsburgh in front 1-0. I'm Jakes McDonald along with Mike Urizioni and Rob Glazier at the Checker Dome in St. Louis. Nicoletti, hard hit by Hamilton. They pile up on the boards and we'll get a face-off to the right. You wonder about the psychological situation between these two teams. Eddie Johnson has been doing a lot of newspaper work on Liut, and he used another weapon tonight in calling up Jimmy Hamilton. It was 2 years ago today that Hamilton came up to Pittsburgh in the playoffs and scored a pair of goals to get them a victory.
Superstitions. They exist. People have them.
Do you have any?
Oh, yeah.
Dress from the left to the right?
No, last one on the ice.
That's always because you were the last one to get to practice.
The oldest guy.
Pэti at center now across the Pittsburgh line. Tried to feed it through to Chapmän, and that was broken up. Hamilton's clearing attempt went into the crowd, and we'll get a face-off in the Pittsburgh end of the ice. Yeah, he is an excellent hockey player, no question about it. Out of Madison, Wisconsin. Penguins starting out of their own zone. At center ice, it's Lee shooting it in wide of Liut. In quickly, Shut. Fired one wide. It's loose at the side of the net. Penguins unable to control it. Got it to the blue line. Price falling, and here's a break for Federico. Carlisle is back. Federico to Curry to Federico in deep. Couldn't pull the trigger. Back of the net, trying to stuff it in. They score.
Well, Millen couldn't get back in the net. Once he got out of the net, he couldn't get back in. And they banged the rebound in there. Curry banged it in, but I'll tell you, Millen couldn't get back into the play, and he was complaining maybe that it got kicked in, but I think it was a good goal. Here's a look at it here. Nice play here. Nice 2-on-1 there. Watch Curry. Gives the puck right back. Watch Millen here. See this Federico go behind the net. You see Millen, he can't get back. He doesn't quite get back in the picture. It did hit a skate, but it hit someone from Pittsburgh's, I believe.
Let's take a look at it from a different angle.
Listen to this place. This is crazy here. Here's another look at it. You see Millen can't get back into the play. And it hit someone's skate, but it wasn't on purpose. It was accidental. So they're going to give the goal to Sutter.
On this face-off, the Blues controlling it. Maxwell around to Brian Sutter. Sutter checked by Lee. Malone tipped it into the corner, and Maxwell was back. Maxwell, Hart off the boards, failed to clear it out. Hart with it around to Maxwell. Maxwell and Lee bump together. This is Peter Lee trying to center, stolen by Curry. Curry into center. Long shot goes wide of Millen, rebounded right out in front of the net. Nobody able to control it. Maxwell in. He fires it wide. Federico comes in for St. Louis. Got a bump from Shuttt. And here's Pat Price picking it up in the right wing corner. Price started the season in Edmonton. Came to Pittsburgh right at the trading deadline and has offered up a souvenir, shooting it into the crowd, and it bounced out into the Pittsburgh players' bench.
You know, Jiggs, with this crowd here, sometimes it can be somewhat of a disadvantage to the players because they're trying to get going. There's Red Berenson there keeping the players in somewhat of a relaxed frame of mind, I got to think, because the crowd gets you going so much, and the more the game goes on and the score stays tied, you start to press a little more because the fans start to get you going more and more and more. So you got to really keep and regain that composure. No matter what the score is or what happens in the game, you can't let the crowd dictate how you play.
Now Greg Sheppard got to center, was checked there. Joe Micheletti from International Falls, lost it to Bullard. Bullard shot, steered aside by Liout. Rick Lappointe in the corner, ahead to Pæti. Pæti to Klassen as he comes to center. Klassen going one-on-one with Faubert. Faubert chased him to the boards. Now Pæti hooked it out in front. Micheletti couldn't control it. Nor can Chapmän. And here's Carlisle. Carlisle around the boards. Lappointe came in on the left side. Got it to Klassen. In front to Chapmän. He shoots. That went bouncing off the defenseman Faubert. Sheppard on it out from the blue line. Chapmän shot goes wide. Pæti chasing it back at the goal. Ran into Carlisle. Klassen unable to put it in front of the net. This is Bullard for Pittsburgh, slapping at it and held in by Micheletti to Chapmän, who centered it, but right to Carlisle. Now to Faubert. Faubert dumps the puck to center, bouncing into the St. Louis zone, wide of the net. Sheppard will be the first man to touch it. Sheppard centers. Here's Johnson, a shot. Centers, the score! Johnson didn't get the shot away, but then did get it to Ferguson, and Pittsburgh is in front. 2-1.
Nice play by Mark Johnson there. He held his composure very well because Liout had him and Mark had no kind of shot at all. And then he made a real nice pass to Ferguson on the side net. Here's a nice look at it here. Sheppard does a super job. He beats Micheletti down the ice and he gets the puck. Now here comes Johnson and Ferguson into the picture. Now watch Mark here. He fakes, he gets the shot off. It's blocked, and then Liout does a good job and stays with him. But Mark makes a real nice goal mouth pass to Ferguson, and George puts it in the net.
George Ferguson with his second goal of the playoffs. It comes at 15:06 of the second period. Johnson and Sheppard on the assist. Here's Dunlop to Pettersson. Trying to get away from Johnson. A shot blocked by Millen, and out come the Penguins. Left side at center ice, it's Hamilton. Right into Kia. Braunscheitel back for the puck. Braunscheitel in front of his own goal. To Dunlop. 4:20 left in the period. Dunlop to Kia. Kia comes to center ice. Now it's picked up by Babbage. Dumps it down into the Penguin zone. There's going to be a penalty against Pittsburgh. 4:07 remaining in the period, and here's an opportunity coming for the St. Louis Blues. With the score, Pittsburgh 2, St. Louis 1. You're watching NHL playoff hockey on the USA Network. Seven times St. Louis has scored on the power play in this series, and they have a chance here as Johnson is off for tripping at 15:53. Federico with Curry and Sutter. From the point, Micheletti shot. Oh, it went wide and tipped a second time. Curry back in the net. Out in front, Federico slapping at it. Back of the net now. Curry to Sutter, he scored.
Nice play by Curry. What a nice play. Tony Curry stepped out from the side of the net and made a real nice feed out front there to Sutter. What a nice play. Here's a look at it here. Babbage, I believe, that's Curry. He misses the first one. Watch this. The puck comes back to Curry behind the net. Tony makes a real nice play. Comes out the other side. Everybody's jammed in front. He hits Sutter, and Sutter just puts it up in the top corner. Real bang-bang play. Here's another look at it here. Real smart play by Curry here. He tries one side, and Zook can't get anything, and then he puts it out front. Oh, it might have been tipped. I think it was tipped, yeah. Sutter shot the puck, but looks like someone got a piece of it in front of the net there.
Well, we're tied at 2. The power play goal at 16:06 of the second period. This is Rod Shutt clearing the puck into the center ice zone. Maxwell coming back for St. Louis. Gave it to Hart, knocked away from him. Hart picks it up again. Played it just out of the reach of Curry. Price for the Penguins. Now Greg Malone plays it rink wide to Lee. Couldn't control it. Federico to Curry. Curry into the corner to Sutter. Ryan Sutter plays it to the side of the net. Here's Federico with it now. Federico unable to put it out in front. Malone all over top of Federico and knocked him down. Sutter in after it. Lays it off Price. Price back of the goal and play has been called. 3:09 remaining, period number 2. All set for this face-off in the Pittsburgh zone. The puck went to the far boards for Sheppard. Sheppard out of the Boston organization. Around to the right side now to Ferguson. George Ferguson at center. Over the St. Louis line. Couldn't knife his way through the defense, and Chapmän dumps the puck to center. Aubert back. Aubert up the left wing side. Across the line comes Bullard. Bullard drop pass to Sheppard to Carlisle, and Liut got in front of that. Now Ferguson checked on the boards by Micheletti, and there's no further play. I can notice we haven't seen much of Gardner in the second period.
Real nice shift there by Mike Bullard. Geez, he's clever with the puck.
Let's go downstairs and check in with Rob Glacier.
Well, during our second intermission, we'll talk with Mark Johnson, the former Olympic star, then have one of his ex-teammates, Mike Eruzione, back to take a look at second period highlights. Looks like there'll be a bunch of them. We'll also take a look at how hockey players are scouted, the NHL's central scouting system, all that during the second intermission. Back to you, Jakes.
That was Fulbert's shot, Rob, that was blocked by Liut. The Blues have cleared it into center ice. Carlisle waited for his teammates to get back before rifling one in high and wide. Micheletti back to the goal. Joe Micheletti to Rick Lapointe. He dumps it into center ice. Fulbert back for the Penguins. Gave it to Mark Johnson. Johnson shooting it in. Here's Liut out of the net. Now Lapointe to the far side for Micheletti. Failed to clear it out. A long shot skipped wide of the goal. Comes off to the left wing side. Picked up by Klassen. Now to Pæti. Pæti at center ice across the Pittsburgh line. In around Carlisle. Centers one. Steered aside by Millen. Carlisle again. Got it to the line. Lapointe got a stick on it. Lost it to Carlisle. Randy Carlisle. What a season he had. To Hamilton. Penguins played out of their own zone. It's Kehoe with it at center. One-on-one against Lapointe. Kehoe across that line. Looks for Johnson. Played it through. Broken up by Babbage. Stolen. Hamilton shot was blocked. Good pad save by Liut. Blues flip it into center ice. Knocked down. Brought back by Malone. Malone taken out on the boards. Here's Pettersson for the Blues. Over to Kia. Kia to Babbage. Out of his reach. Dunlop hammered on a check at center ice. It's picked up by Lee. Lee's shot knocked down. Brought in offside by Jorgen Pettersson with 1 minute and 5 seconds left in the second period. Well, Pittsburgh led 1-0 at the end of the first. They've been outscored by the Blues 2-1 here. And now in Philadelphia, the Nordiques have scored their second goal of the game. But the Flyers have just added their fifth. It's 5-2, Philadelphia leading Quebec. They're midway through the third period. Here it's 2-2 with exactly 60 seconds remaining in the second period. Bacster for Pittsburgh to Greg Malone. Malone into center. Fired it from the blue line. It hit Kia, but has been called back on an offside. Now 50 seconds remaining. The winner of this game advances to play one of the two New York teams. If St. Louis wins, they'll open at home here on Thursday night against the New York Rangers. If the Pittsburgh Penguins win, they'll go to the Nassau Coliseum to face the Islanders in the first game of that series, also on Thursday night. If St. Louis should win, it would mean that the Islanders would then face Edmonton in the quarterfinal series. Tourney falling in his own territory, and now a hand pass is being called against Pittsburgh. 34 seconds left. Good call by referee Brian Lewis as Chorney, falling, tried to play it. It hit the side of the net, came back to him, and he pushed it to his teammate. Important face-off in the Pittsburgh zone, and Eddie Johnson is making a late player change. Lonsberry comes over the boards along with Ferguson and Sheppard. Greg Sheppard will take the face-off against Federico. Federico, Sаттер, and Kuri, the forward line for the Blues. From the draw, it's controlled momentarily by Lonsberry, then back to Carlisle. Carlisle into center ice. Knocked off his stick. The Blues able to poke it back into center. Carlisle had it in his skates, lost it to Kuri. Kuri over the line, 4 Penguins back. Kuri can't get through the defense. This is Lonsberry shooting it into center ice. Federico back for the Blues as time runs down. Now Kia turns. Kia to Sаттер off his stick. Sаттер chasing it with Ferguson. They go back of the net together, and there's the buzzer. Ending period number 2. But a good period for the St. Louis Blues as Sаттер and Federico get their goals. Pittsburgh outshot the Blues in the period. The shots on goal by Pittsburgh 13, by St. Louis 12. And at the end of 2 periods, St. Louis now with 29 shots on goal. The Pittsburgh Penguins have had 23 shots on goal. And at the end of 2, we're tied at 2-2 here at the Checker Dome. I'm Jakes McDonald. Third period is just underway. The Blues have moved into the Pittsburgh zone, but the play broken up. This is Malone off to the left side to Shott. Shot at center ice, across the line against Hart, trying to cut in off the wing, chased back of the net. Heavy hit by Hart, leveled on Rod Shott. The puck came to the St. Louis line. Maxwell ahead to Kuri, broken up by Pat Price. Over to Ferguson. Ferguson across the line with Price. Price backhanded it through in front of the net, comes off the boards. Here's Sheppard with it. To Ferguson, he's tied up in the corner. Hart without a helmet at the moment, falls at the puck beneath him, forcing a face-off. Well, the Philadelphia Flyers have become the 7th team to qualify for the quarterfinals. In Philadelphia, the Flyers have defeated the Nordiques 5-2. So it's either Philadelphia and Calgary or Philadelphia and the Rangers. We'll know at the end of this game. 20 minutes left in regulation, make it 18:50 now, remaining in regulation time, and a 2-2 tie. If St. Louis wins, it's Calgary and the Flyers. If Pittsburgh wins, it's the Flyers and the Rangers, as Pittsburgh would advance to meet the Islanders. Baxter trying to move in from the point, couldn't do it. The Blues out into center, the pass out of the reach of Chapmän. That goes wide of the goal, and back for it is Pat Price. Price ahead to the rookie Bullard. Bullard into center. Out of the right side for Ferguson, around Lapointe. Ferguson poked at it, but Micheletti covered up on the St. Louis defense. Lassen couldn't get it away from the check. Micheletti again. Ferguson chasing him. Blues come to the blue line. Lapointe fires one wide, and St. Louis completes a player change. It's Gardner out now to Hamilton. Hamilton across the line. A wicked shot. Stick save by Liut. Kia to the line. Not out, however. Penguins in quickly. Ferguson, Kehoe, Carlisle, all of them out there doing a job for Pittsburgh at the moment, but Dunlop broke up the play and has cleared it to Pettersson on left wing. Knocked away from him by Chorty, and back comes Randy Carlisle. Carlisle up the left wing. Hamilton couldn't get a stick on us, and it hit Babbage. Pettersson in front, fan on the shot, and here's Hamilton. Hamilton with Kehoe. Jimmy Hamilton over the line. Hamilton, one of those wraparound passes, broken up and cleared by Babbage. Carlisle couldn't trap it at the line. It's fired back in offside by Chorty. 17-12 remaining in regulation time.
Oh, it's good hockey out in that Western Hockey League. It's good hockey out there.
Here's Federico at center for St. Louis over the Pittsburgh line. Taken out by Baxter. He had Sаттер open in front of the net. Couldn't get the puck to him.
It's going to be a pretty obvious call for him to call a penalty here.
Now cleared by Pat Price as Federico put it out in front again. It goes over the glass and into the crowd. Now you look at the players on the St. Louis team in particular that come out of Portland. There's Babbage, there's Kuri, Turnbull who's missing this action. We take a look at Paul Baxter.
He was started the season with Quebec, as you said earlier, Jigs, and now he's became a mainstay on that tough Pittsburgh defense. He's an all-time leader in penalty minutes in WHA history. So he's a guy that's he's not afraid to back down from anybody.
Eddie Johnson was telling me before the game that he is really impressed with Baxter and Chorty and the quickness in which they move the puck. have 16:39 remaining in this game. I mentioned that Perry Turnbull has not seen any action during the series. He has been in the hospital with a viral infection, was just released today. They're hoping that they'll have him available for the quarterfinals. If they advance, of course. And Pittsburgh has been called for icing the puck. They dumped it in from their own side of the center ice stripe, and that'll force a face-off to the left of Greg Millen. Repeating a final score from Philadelphia, Flyers 5, Quebec Nordiques 2. So Quebec making the playoffs for the first time in their NHL history. Go to the sidelines tonight, and one of these two teams will be eliminated when this one is over. On the face-off, Pæti got it to Chapmän, who rifled it wide. Now Lapоинт is shot, he scores!
How important that face-off is in the offensive zone. And Larry Pæti did a good job in the original play. Here's a look at it here. Pæti wins the first face-off right here. There's the shot. Now here comes the shot from the point. Now he just plain beat Millen. Watch this. Right by him low on the stick side. Real nice shot by Lapоинт.
Rick Lapоинт from the left side of the blue line. Lapоint's first goal in this playoff series. Chapmän had blasted the puck wide. Out of about 18,000 on their feet here. We're going to have a penalty against Pittsburgh as Pæti was upended. Ferguson will touch up. And St. Louis has a golden opportunity coming up with the score. St. Louis Blues 3, Pittsburgh Penguins 2. You're watching NHL Playoff Hockey on the USA Network. And over in the right wing, Blair Chapmän. It's Lapоинт for the Blues. Into center. Shot it into the Pittsburgh zone, but offside. Blair Chapmän was one of the former Pittsburgh players. Came over here to St. Louis and really found new life on this Blues team.
There's a look at Paul Gardner, who's got the first goal, his first goal of the playoffs this year for Pittsburgh, so he could be a very dangerous man. He was the odd man out, but he's back playing a regular shift now.
It's Carlisle shooting it into the St. Louis zone. Liut. Now the Blues come out on the left side after Micheletti gave it to Klassen. He fell, but was still able to shoot it into the Pittsburgh zone. Greg Millen left it back of the net for Carlisle. Off the left wing boards. Into center ice. And broken up there by Micheletti. Micheletti to the left side to Klassen. Klassen bumped by Gardner. Hamilton in forechecking as well. Klassen takes it back of the net. Gardner waiting right out in front of the goal as Klassen zigzags. Now gives it to Micheletti. Micheletti. Well, they failed to clear it as it hit Faubert. Here's Kehoe, a shot, glove saved by Liut. Kehoe picking the glove side. It was only about 2 feet off the ice, and Liut the dazzling stop.
Can't ask for anything finer than that. Kehoe point blank. Great another glove saved by Liut. Almost the exact same save that Millen made earlier in the period. Watch it here. Here comes Kehoe with the puck right there. From the top of the face-off circle, he lets a blast go, and Liut stays with it. Right there, tribute to him. With Hamilton right at the crease. Here's another look at it. Because if Liut even bobbles this puck, Jimmy Hamilton's right there to bang in the rebound. So a nice play by Liut.
On the face-off, it just went wide of the St. Louis goal. It was Johnson on the draw for the Penguins. Blues trying to come out. Brown shuttle to Kia. Kia turned away from the puck. Recovers in time, slaps it around to the left side and out into center ice. This is Bacster. Shot it back in, but hadn't waited long enough for Ferguson to get onside. 7 minutes and 18 seconds of the overtime has gone by.
It's been such a physical and such a tough series that it has to take its wear in these players. And whoever does win this game, they have to move on to a rested team, whether it be the Rangers or whomever. So could be in a little disadvantage having to go through this.
Babbage waiting outside the Pittsburgh line, gave it to Pettersson. He was hooked on the play by Ferguson, no penalty. Now Dunlop shoots it down into the Pittsburgh zone. Babbage chasing it, slowed up at a hit from Shepard. Here's Pettersson back of the net, centers, it's on the doorstep. Babbage turns, shoots. Millen just got a piece of it. Pat Price for the Penguins has cleared it, and it goes up into the crowd. Each team getting chances, more so here perhaps in the overtime than they had through the third period.
At each shot, every time there's an opening where there's a shot, the crowd is just so quiet. It's just so silent. There's Millen again dancing to his own beat there.
Another look at the save just a moment ago by Millen.
Geez, here comes Babbage, just turns and fires. I think it was the defenseman, Pat Price, that might have got a piece of that and blocked it into the corner.
And Millen right up on top of the goal crease, challenging the shooters.
They got to get the puck in the air on this guy because he's going down awful early.
Now the Blues in control of it. Federico has shot right into the chest of Millen. He covered up. Goaltender probably appreciates a shot in that position. And he does the dance again as Eddie Johnson paces up and down behind the Pittsburgh bench. Federico will take the face-off for St. Louis. Malone moves in for Pittsburgh. Federico to Sutter, and it was broken up and cleared around behind the net by Faubert. Rod Shutt lofts it high in the air. Lee chasing it. Maxwell clearing it for St. Louis to Jerry Hart. Hart, the season pro, gives it to Maxwell to the line, but not out. Here's Carlisle in front, and knocked down was Malone. Shutt comes in, stepped into Maxwell. Maxwell still in control of the puck, however. Ryan Maxwell up the right wing side. Curry to Federico. Federico checked by Faubert. Curry is across that line, then now plays it around behind the net to Sutter. Couldn't center it. Good defensive move. Here's Federico for the Blues. He couldn't put it out in front of the net. Carlisle ahead to Lee. One-on-one with Maxwell. Peter Lee across the line, trying to cut in. Maxwell fell. Lee coming right in on goal. He shoots and it just went wide as he went to the backhand. This is Federico on the left side. Into center ice to Sutter. Sutter across the line. Can't knife through the defense. Millen dumps it around the boards. Payne comes in. Quick shot. Off the chest protector. A scramble and the puck cleared by Paul Baxter. In this right wing corner, it's Lee trying to tie it up for a face-off, and we'll get a draw in the circle to the right of Millen.
I'll tell you, Jigs, I don't want to say anything. I just want to watch the game. It's been incredible. Jeez, another nice save by Liut. Look at poor Maxwell falls down here. Nice save here by Liut. Mikey hugged the post well, and he didn't fall down too early. He made a nice save on Peter Lee. And then all of a sudden, back up the other end, Millen makes a fine save. Look at that right there. He hugged the post, almost a tip. Another shot there by Sutter. The puck comes out.
And
you talk. I want to watch the game.
St. Louis out shooting Pittsburgh 9-4 in overtime. The game is tied 3-3. We have played through 9 minutes and 11 seconds of sudden death. Philadelphia has defeated Quebec 5-2 tonight. So the Flyers have advanced to the quarterfinal round. And they're waiting for the outcome of this. They'll either play the Calgary Flames if St. Louis wins, or if Pittsburgh wins, it'll be the Flyers and the New York Rangers. And that will be a best-of-7 series opening Thursday night. Here's Klassen ahead to Chapmän. Chapmän to Pæti. Pæti dumps one into the far corner. Greg Sheppard slapping at it. Able to clear it out. Here's Chapmän from the blue line. Around one check, then was knocked down. Pæti got a stick on it. Couldn't control it. Penguins come to center ice. Mark Johnson across the line. Johnson a drive. Liut the stick save. Cleared around behind the net. The point there for the Blues to Chapmän. Chapmän dumps it into center ice, but play has been called. Referee Brian Lewis calling penalties. Both Baxter. Well, let's see if he got both. Baxter is headed off. Let's go back and pick up some of the action from just a moment ago on Mark Johnson's move.
Here's a look at Johnson here. Mark makes a nice play here. He holds up as much as he can to give his wings time to get in the play. He can't wait any longer, and he lets a shot go. Liut with a real nice save, and he kicks it in the corner. He keeps the puck away from being any sort of a rebound.
9:56 into sudden death overtime. Roughing penalties against Paul Baxter of Pittsburgh, Larry Pæti of St. Louis.
I don't think we're going to see one penalty called. I think if anything is going to happen, it's going to be both men.
will have to be very flagrant, I would imagine, in order for a single penalty to be called. Both teams taking a little time with these player changes. It's Sheppard, Carlisle, Ferguson, and Fulbear for Pittsburgh. Dunlop with Jorgen Pettersson, Braunscheitel, and Kia for St. Louis. Puck went to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Fulbear to Ferguson on the right side. Carries it back inside his own line, trying to get away from Dunlop's forechecking. Now Ferguson. It hit the linesman Scapinello. Here's Carlisle. Over that line against Braunscheitel. He shoots, faked the shot, they center. Oh, Ferguson tipped it wide. Pittsburgh, another golden opportunity went down the drain. Braunscheitel at center. Into the Pittsburgh zone, coming it on goal, and Millen way out of the net to knock it to the corner. Dunlop to Pettersson who shoots. Millen the save. And we're going to face off in the Pittsburgh territory. Keep that play. Federico on the draw. Got it to Micheletti, but it hopped over his stick and came to center. It's Lapointe with it. Rick Lapointe to Sutter. Sutter to Federico. Shooting. Stick hand save by Millen. He is a confident youngster. Now carrying it out is Greg Malone. Checked right at his own line. Federico to Sutter. Sutter tipped it in around the defense, and Millen way out. Got it to the line.
Good call. Good call.
Nicoletti brought it in over the line.
Nice call. He was right on it. Beautiful. Super call right there by the official. Watch this. Millen tries to clear it. The puck does go over the blue line. You see it there. Good call. The officials have been sensational. A pressure call at a big moment right there, and he was there. Eddie Johnson, his tie is getting looser and looser as each shifts. You know, the thing is, it's only the first round. You think it's the finals of the cup, but to these players, this is the finals.
How exhausting it is, and like you pointed out earlier, Mike, the team that advances will have been extended right into overtime in the deciding game. They'll go up against a team that has been resting in the next round. Federico carrying it out for the Blues. Into center, across the Pittsburgh line, looks for Chapmän, fed it through, and that was broken up. Mark Chorney tied up in the boards. Now Pat Price looks for a man. Price shot it high in the air. 35 seconds left in the penalties to Baxter and Pæti. Blues clear it quickly to Chapmän at center ice. Chapmän sends Federico over the line. He was hauled down, and Johnson is able to clear it to center ice. Nicoletti back for the Blues. Played it up the open wing. Carlisle has it for Pittsburgh. Turning to get away from Dunlop. Gave the puck to Chorney. Mark Chorney shoots it into the St. Louis territory. The Ute out of the net to cut it off. Now around to Babbage as Nicoletti sends him out on the right side. Babbage's pass came off the skate. Lapointe with it. Teams at 6 aside. Here's Lapointe over the blue line. Lapointe to the far corner. Knocked down on a hit by Carlisle. And the puck tied up for a face-off to the left of the Pittsburgh goal. Through the first 12 minutes and 7 seconds, Pittsburgh has been outshot by a margin of 12-5. St. Louis with 50 shots at young Greg Millen. The Penguins have tested Mike Liut a total of 38 times.
And it just keeps building. Another important face-off right here.
Carlisle slapping at the puck has dumped it into center ice. Braunscheitel back. Jack Braunscheitel over to Kia. Ed Kia off the boards to Dunlop. Blake Dunlop dumped it into center ice. Carlisle playing it back and forth with his defense mate Fulbear. Fulbear to Carlisle. Carlisle ahead for Sheppard, off his stick right to Liut. Side to Braunscheitel. Around to the right side for Babbage. Babbage to Dunlop. Pettersson open on the left wing. The pass instead to Kia. Dumps it in wide. Corners Fulbear. Fulbear unable to get it out of there. Now it's knocked away from Babbage. That'll go all the way into the St. Louis zone, but right on target. Liut being chased by Hamilton. Now Kia back of his own goal to Braunscheitel. Off the left wing to Klassen. That came off the referee and off Lee as well. Braunscheitel around to Kia. Kia takes a look. Got it ahead to Dunlop. Dunlop dumping it in wide at the Pittsburgh goal. Malone after it. Off the boards, intended for Lee. Intercepted. Babbage with a shot that deflected wide. Now Klassen tries to center off Millen's stick. And cleared ahead quickly by the Penguins. They have trouble getting out of there. Malone ran into Pæti. Now Klassen sends Chapman in, but he lost the puck. Malone backhands it into the center ice area. Kia back for the Blues. Ed Kia up the left side to Klassen. Klassen sends Chapman in. Chapman lost control of it. He tried to play it to the right wing. There was nobody there at the time. Coming out for Pittsburgh is Ron Schott. Rink wide to Lee. Peter Lee over the line. Lee trying to cut in around the defense. Was checked. The puck loose. Picked up by Chapman. Rolling puck as Chapman comes to center. Across the Pittsburgh line. Chapman trying to come in around Carlisle. Drop pass and Schott intercepts and clears to center. Here's Mark Johnson, number 9. Over to Schott. Schott into the St. Louis zone. His drive went wide. Lee the rebound. Got it through in front, but was cut off and cleared by Lapointe. Ahead to Pæti. Pæti backhands the puck into the Pittsburgh zone. Millen leaves it for Faubert. Around to the right side to Schott. Rink wide to Lee. Lee at the center ice stripe. Dumps it in. A bouncing puck eluded Liut. Pittsburgh completing a player change as Gardner has come out. He's chasing Curry. Curry up the right side. The pass out of the reach of Federico. Carlisle couldn't get there in time. But it's been called. I don't believe it. Linesman Ray Scapanello called the play. St. Louis arguing, but we'll get a face-off. It's going to be called an offside.
Two-line offside. Two-line pass.
A lot of teams involved in travel plans. The outcome of this game. Here's Gardner in. Tied up and knocked down by Kia as they went to the boards heavily.
One thing, Jigs, you don't want to see is a player fall down or a funny bounce or something like that lead to the eventual goal. These teams have worked too hard. They owe it to themselves, I think, to have someone beat them with a nice clean shot or a nice play.
Pittsburgh winning the face-off. Gardner's centering attempt deflected right on. Liut out of the net. Ahead to Tony Curry. Curry to Federico. Sutter with him. Federico checked by Carlisle. Carlisle to Johnson, who's across the line. Coming right in on goal. Johnson shoots Liut. A dazzling stop. The rebound. Gardner's shot went wide. Pittsburgh again with great chances. Now the Blues get an opportunity as Sutter comes to center. Here's Sutter over the Pittsburgh line. A give and go, and Curry couldn't hold on to the puck. It's Carlisle up the left side. Out of the reach of Bullard. And Curry fires it in over the line right into the chest of defenseman Faubert. Mark Johnson had a great opportunity. Then Gardner had an opportunity. And Pittsburgh, Eddie Johnson, realizing that his team was within inches of going to the quarterfinals.
I'll tell you, I told you earlier that Mark Johnson is so clever, but Mike Liut stayed with him. Watch Mark here. Liut with a great save. And then watch it again. The puck comes right out to Gardner. Another save.
Now play underway in the Pittsburgh zone, and the Penguins have cleared it into center ice. Micheletti to Lapointe. Lapointe up the left side, and Pettersson backhands it around the boards. Price chasing it. Gave it to Baxter. Now to Ferguson. Ferguson is out there with Bullard and Shepard. This is Bullard. He ran into Lapointe at the St. Louis line. Micheletti back in the Blues defense. Joe Micheletti, left side to Dunlap. Into center. Long shot is wide of the goal. Off the boards. Babbage chasing it. Plays it around, intended for Lapointe. Picked up instead by Ferguson of the Penguins. Pettersson coming back. Broke up that play. Jorgen Pettersson fires it high down into the Pittsburgh zone. 3:50 left in the first overtime period. Greg Shepard to Baxter. Ball Baxter. Long pass to Bullard. Here's Bullard shooting it into the St. Louis zone. Ferguson breaks in, takes a shot. Liut the skate save. And the Blues just clear it the length of the ice. Carlisle back to touch up. The shots now by St. Louis 12, by Pittsburgh 10, and some of those Pittsburgh shots have been labeled.
Well, Liut has no question been a little quicker this period, it seems, with his saves, because he's had to make more of them. And by that I mean he's had to make more point-blank saves this period, and the pressure's been on him, and he's been equal to the task. 43 saves he's had tonight, and in the last period and a half, a lot of them have been spectacular.
Well, whatever flaw Pittsburgh had found in his goaltending, if they're working on it, it isn't there tonight. Here's a chance again for the Penguins as they got control of the puck following the face-off. Back to the point. Faubert winds up, shoots. Liut the save, and he holds on. He reached behind, and it was right on the goal line.
Rod Shuttt is talking to himself right there. He just couldn't believe it. A shot from Faubert at the point, and here it is, another look at it here. Mario Faubert with a nice shot from the point. Look at it there with a little screen, and Liut made the save, and the puck almost trickled in, but he got his glove on it. Shuttt was sort of screening him a little.
Now Malone on the face-off. Blues got control of it. Ryan Maxwell on this left side. Over to Bernie Federico. Federico dumps one in between the defense. Millen out of the net to cut it off. Shuttt trying to come around the boards to this right side. Turning. Rod Shuttt trying to get away from Sutter. Gave it to Carlisle. Randy Carlisle back to Shuttt with Lee. And Malone shot over the line, but he went in offside, and there's no further play. Then he collided. Sutter comes in. So does Maxwell. A lot of talk, a lot of shoving.
I don't think anybody got the strength to fight.
I would hope not. Let's just
They should just get the game going. It's been too great a hockey game to have anything else happen. You know the tempers are a little high, the pressure's there, but they're still doing a good job of controlling it to a point. You hate to see anything get carried away right now.
You know, too, in the New York area, the Rangers are watching this. So are the Islanders, because their opponents are based on the outcome of this game.
And two hockey teams that are playing pretty good hockey. The Rangers especially. I watched them play quite a few games against Los Angeles, and they could be a sleeper or a dark horse in this quest for the Stanley Cup. They're playing very good hockey right now.
Maxwell did not go directly to the St. Louis players' bench. He had a few words with Paul Bacster on his way. Now we line up. Gardner to take the face-off. Johnson has shifted over to the left wing. Keogh is on the right side for Pittsburgh. It's Dunlop between Babbage and Pettersson for St. Louis. Key and Brownscheitel together on the Blues defense. Brownscheitel comes to center. Flipped it high in the air and wide of this Pittsburgh goal. Baxter after it, around to the left side. Johnson tips it into center, a race for it. Paul Gardner with it. Drop pass for Johnson. He's across the line. Johnson over to Keogh. Keogh is shooting. Liut the save. And he covers up on the puck.
Keogh there almost put the puck between Mike Liut's legs. But Liut was quick to cover up there. Nice play by Johnson. What a nice pass by Mark Johnson here to Keogh. And watch this, a blast from a tough angle. And he tried to go between the legs, but Liut just closed him and fell on the rebound. Now that look at it here, there's a shot right by Keogh. Look at it, almost between his legs, but Liut did a good job and smothered it.
Now play underway in the St. Louis zone. It's Dunlop in control of the puck. Around to the right side to Babbage. Dips it into center. We have 2 minutes, 20 seconds left in the first overtime period. Pat Price to Gardner. Gardner can't get it away from Brownscheitel. Keogh came in. He couldn't control it. Here's Pettersson to Kia. Kia shoots it around the boards into the St. Louis zone. Price taken out on a hit from Babbage. The Blues in control of it. Pettersson's shot went off the defenseman Baxter and brought out by Johnson. Mark Johnson into the St. Louis zone again. Can't get around Kia. Gardner got a stick on it to Johnson. Johnson got a hard hit on the boards from Babbage. The puck loose in front. Ends up back of the net. Kia, Babbage, the point there as well. Play has been called with 1:43 remaining in the first overtime period. Now St. Louis had an early lead as far as shots in this period and scoring opportunities. Then Pittsburgh came back, and on the strength of this overtime period, Pittsburgh has had the better scoring chances. At least 3 times they've had the game on their sticks and haven't been able to beat Mike Liut. We're live from the Checker Dome in St. Louis. It's Pæti against Bullard on the faceoff. Bullard got the draw. Ferguson's shot was blocked. Moving in was Faubert. Couldn't get there in time. Blues 2-on-1. It's Pæti with Chapman over the line. Pæti a shot. Fell in the stick. Save. Carlisle clearing it around the boards. Poking at it is Bullard, chasing the puck into center ice, and back for St. Louis was Micheletti to Lapointe. And offside. Blue line pass, and they'll bring the face-off into the St. Louis zone with 1:25 left in the overtime period. This is period 1 of overtime. There will be another intermission if it's this way at the end of 20 minutes. And even more sudden death. Or is it sudden life? Life into the quarterfinals at least, with a team triumphant here tonight. Sheppard in control of the puck for Pittsburgh. His pass hit Pэti. Now Faubert to Ferguson. That one off Lapointe at center ice, picked up by Pэti. Pэti at the blue line, checked from behind by Bullard, and the puck is cleared by Carlisle. The Ute comes out to clear that aside. Nicoletti with a minute remaining in the first overtime lost the puck. Malone couldn't do anything with it, and this is Carlisle outside the line, shooting it right back in, but offside. 55 seconds left the first overtime period. To this point in the game, St. Louis with 51 shots, Pittsburgh with 45. Federico with Sаттер. And over on the far side, playing the right wing for the Blues, Tony Kuri. Another chance for Pittsburgh, just went wide, and the Blues come to center ice. Led by Sаттер to Federico. Poked it through the defense, couldn't catch up with it. Pat Price backhanding it into center. Spinning down into the St. Louis zone. And just over the goal line for icing. Face-off will be in the circle to the right of Millen, and again he goes out of the net, slapping his stick to the beat of the music, dancing around to the goal mouth. Federico moves in to take the face-off. Now Dunlop is coming out for St. Louis. He's going to replace Kuri. Federico is going to back out of the face-off area. Dunlop will take the draw for St. Louis. Eddie Johnson wants a word with Greg Malone. So he's come back to the bench, has some instructions. Malone saying something to Millen and to Bacster. Sets up his team. Right side is open for Pittsburgh, left for the Blues, and they got the draw to Hart. The shot ricocheted off his skate. Cleared by Baxter into the center ice area. Maxwell knocked it down. Played it rink wide, picked up by Price. 23 seconds left in the overtime period as Price shot went in off the boards. Ryan Maxwell for the Blues to Sаттер. Ryan Sаттер down the left side to Federico. He just shot it in, and Price hustles back with 10 seconds left to Lee. Pittsburgh can't get out of there. Here's Sаттер in front. Broken up at the defense and cleared by Price. That's going to do it for the first overtime period. In the period, each team with 13 shots on goal. Some great scoring opportunities for both teams, particularly the Pittsburgh Penguins. We have played 80 minutes and still have not declared a victor in this series. It was 1-0 at the end of the first, 2-2 at the end of the second, 3-3 at the end of regulation, and still 3-3 after one period of overtime. Now they've been at it for 4 hours, and now we try to get a winner for you as we go to the second sudden death overtime. Mark Johnson between Greg Sheppard and George Ferguson for Pittsburgh, Pэti with Chapmän, and Klassen on the wings for St. Louis. This is Carlisle following the face-off. Fires one in, wide of the net on the glove side. Ferguson picks up the rebound. Around Lapointe, put it out in front. That was blocked and cleared by Blair Chapman. Carlisle coming back for Pittsburgh. Carlisle and Faubert, the defensive combination. Carlisle to Sheppard too far. It's going all the way into the St. Louis zone and will be called back for icing. 26 seconds into the second overtime period.
Interesting here, he's got Greg Sheppard out on the ice with Mark Johnson. Both of them are centers. Maybe he doesn't want, it looks like it's going to do that. He doesn't want Mark, being a rookie, maybe taking that all-important face-off in the defensive zone. Mark, of course, took the face-off to start the period, but now Shepard's taking it down in the corner.
And, of course, if Sheppard should be waved out, he always has Johnson there as a backup, too. Micheletti from the blue line and comes out in front. Chapmän was there but couldn't control the puck. Here's Carlisle to Ferguson as the Penguins come to center. Ferguson's pass went off the stick of Johnson, brought back by Mike Zook. Zook shot it in wide. Millen to Faubert, around to Ferguson. Ferguson checked by Zook. Here's Klassen with it to the blue line. Rick Lapointe lets it go, and it was just wide. Shepard at center ice. Got around the check of Micheletti. Shepard to Ferguson. Ferguson looks for Johnson. The pass is there. Johnson can't tip it in. Had trouble getting around the defensive work of Micheletti. This is Micheletti to Zook, who's over the line. Zook falling, was upended. And Baxter got a piece of his band, no penalty. Back comes Johnson to Ferguson. Ferguson to Mark Johnson, the pass out of his reach. The point for the Blues, fired it off the boards and went up into the crowd.
No question, an obvious tripping penalty right there, but this game should not be decided by a power play goal. I guess there's two sides to that coin. If it's a penalty, it's a penalty, but still. Here's a look here. Johnson almost gets George. Ferguson gives Mark a nice feed, but he's really doesn't have much he can do with it. He's covered pretty well there. He doesn't get a chance to get anything off. But Mark's been dangerous in this overtime.
Make no mistake about that. Here's Hart back of the St. Louis net. Up the middle to Curry. Curry backhanded it into center ice. Down into the Pittsburgh zone. Pat Price touches up. Blues are called for icing. So we'll face off in the circle to the left of Mike Liu. Pittsburgh with an opportunity now with a face-off. And they're going to send out Gardner, Hamilton, and Kehoe. Gardner got his first goal of the playoffs on a power play in the first period tonight and was rested for much of the second period. Ross Lonsberry has been playing odd man out with a balance on both the second and the third period, really.
Seems to be going with three lines. He doesn't really maybe spotting that odd player.
Hamilton is out there in this line. Of course, the rookie called up. Last time Pittsburgh won an overtime game, it was Hamilton who got the goal. Here's a drive for the point. Pad saved by Liut. Hamilton is there, can't get a stick on it. Gardner is shot, blocked in front, and out come the Blues. Dunlop carries it to center. Dunlop struggling to get over the line, and then is finally taken out of the play. Here's a chance for Babbage. Babbage cutting in, and it's poked off his stick. A drive, and it just went over top of the net. Brownschattel with the shot. Babbage wraps his arm around Gardner as the Penguins cleared to the line, just out of the reach of Hamilton. Brownschattel back at center, into the St. Louis zone. Brownschattel to Kia. Kia shoots the puck into the Pittsburgh territory. Back for it is Baxter. And on the right side, it was cleared into center by Keel. Shot back in on the delayed offside. This is Pat Price. Price up the right side, out of the reach of Baxter. Jorgen Pettersson for St. Louis tried to set up Dunlop. That didn't work, and back comes Schott. A long shot off the post. It ticked the post to the right of Liut after he'd gotten the stick on it to begin with. Pittsburgh came out of the corner, but not until the whistle had sounded, and there will be a face-off again on the St. Louis end of the ice.
Liut with a great kick save. The puck was just lying there, and he was spread-eagled, and then he just kicked it out with his leg. I would say he's had the tougher saves in this overtime.
No question. Pittsburgh has really tested Liut. He has come up big. Pittsburgh with 4 shots in this second overtime period. It's Malone now with Lee. And Schott up front for Pittsburgh. This is Hart playing it off the boards. It was held in by the Penguins. Lee backhanded it wide of the net. Out of this right side, Curry tips it into the center ice zone. Faubert comes back. Faubert to Carlisle. Carlisle, the shot too far. The puck ends up inside the St. Louis zone, and Jerry Hart is there. Hart, who is doubtful for this game, played it to Sutter. Rink wide to Curry. Curry across the line, but he lost the puck to Malone. Greg Malone gets into the St. Louis zone. Fired it around the boards. Liut cuts it off. Played it up the far wing. Here's Faubert with a shot. That just sailed wide of the net. Carlisle with the rebound. Shoveled it into the corner, out in front of the net. Malone couldn't control it. The Blues have a 2-on-1 break. Federico with Curry. Back is Faubert. This is Federico to Curry. Shoots. Hit the post. Came off Millen and hit the post. Well, they're 1 for 1 in that department in overtime. And here's a break the other way. Malone into the St. Louis zone, shooting, and that went wide. Liut cleared it back of the goal, but right to Shuttt. Into the far corner. Malone unable to get a stick on it. Brian Sаттер trying to come out for the Blues. Sаттер fires it into the Pittsburgh zone. We played 4 minutes and 10 seconds. Second overtime period. Here's Ferguson leading the rush at center. Klassen got a piece of him to slow him up. Micheletti is back to Klassen. Klassen checked at the St. Louis line. The puck loose for Shepard. Shepard to Johnson. Couldn't get back into the Blues zone. Now it's Pat Price with the puck. Price to Johnson. Again too well covered. Picks it up. Johnson to Ferguson. Got it in around the boards. Liut back of the goal. Left it for Lapointe. Lapointe can't get it away from Johnson. Here's Price from the blue line. Shoots. Liut the save. Pæti picks up the rebound. Pæti across the line on the left side. Centers one wide of the net. Chapmän into the corner for it. Back of the goal for Klassen. Klassen trying to put it out in front. To the blue line. Micheletti. And he fired it in offside.
Just offsides. The puck hopped over Joey's stick there. And he didn't get a chance to get it down quick enough before the referee called that offside.
Heavy breathing exercises for everybody right now. The Blues had a great chance. 2-on-1.
Hits his pad, hits Millen's pad, and then deflects up and hits the post.
Wow.
You know, you can't, how do you describe each save? Each save's been sensational. They haven't been that easy. They've been point-blank shots.
51 shots. Each team now.
102 total shots tonight.
This is Zook for the Blues in front. Kромбин scores! St. Louis wins. Mike Kромбин, who hadn't played, all of a sudden becomes a hero.
Millen got a piece of it. Look at Eddie Johnson. He's so dejected. Millen got a piece of it, and it just got in off his pad. Curry was all alone in front of the net.
He'd ridden the bench all night. Mike Kромбин had been on the bench all night long. He's sent out there in this face-off. Let's take another look at it.
Nobody picked Kромбин up. Look at him. You're going to see him all alone out here. The defenseman, Carlisle, goes in the corner, leaves Kромбин alone. Millen got a piece of it, but that's all. Here's another look at it here. Nice feed out front. See Carlisle right here. He makes the mistake of going in and gambling in the corner. Kромбин all alone out front. Millen got a piece of it. Just a great ending to a great hockey game. And there is the traditional handshakes.